welcome to my garage. This is the place. This is my first video of me really being in front of a camera and doing any talking at all. And I, full disclosure, have no idea what I'm doing or what this channel is gonna be. But it seems like every time my brother, cousin, friends, and I are working on something, it always comes up that we should really be filming this because it could be fun to look back on. Maybe somebody else will enjoy it, get some entertainment out of it, or find something useful in it. So, without any other starting place, this is it. This is the starting place. And today, what I want to do is introduce my main project car that I have going on right now, and talk a little bit about it, a little bit about the plans I have for it, and hopefully that'll lead into a lot more content on this vehicle and some of the others. So, without further ado, let's go check out the truck. Okay, so this is my 1996 Nissan Pickup, Hardbody D21, whatever you want to call it. Its only real model name is Pickup. I picked this up a few months ago and have not really done a whole lot to it. It's not the nicest to look at, but it has no rust. It's in really good shape, and I love it personally. So a couple of things that were already done to this truck when I got it. It is lowered, yes. It came lowered a little bit, not a lot, but enough to where it does tuck that front tire under that fender just a little bit. Speaking of the fenders, they are four-wheel drive hardbody fenders, so they're a little bit wider than the stock two-wheel drive. This is a two-wheel drive, 5-speed manual, and yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but I do want to show it. These are the wheels that it came on. It's an 18-inch steel wheel that's been painted, and these ugly little mismatches back here are some cheap rims that I picked up. They're from a Toyota Tacoma, and the plan is to paint all of these black, and they will be extra wheels. Let's take a look on the inside. Bench seat, slight rip on it, doesn't really bother me. 5-speed, in decent shape in here. That door is a different color on the inside and the outside. I'm not sure why it was replaced, but it was. Windshield's cracked up a lot, but hey, that gets fixed tomorrow. It's getting a new windshield in it, so. This is a 4-cylinder. This is a KA24E 2.4 liter 12 valve Nissan engine. So all I've really done under here is basic tune-up, distributor cap, plugs, wires, battery, air filter. But it's running really well. We had to change the throttle position sensor. That tidied it up a lot. The fenders are cut, which is okay with. I'm okay with it. It does mean that some things have been moved around, like the power steering, so it's a little bit tighter with the battery. But it's dirty because, you know, cut fenders, it's going to be dirty. But this is the truck. Some of the things I have changed on it. Headlights, I put those LED headlights on, and those front turn signals that are a clear housing. I didn't like the look of the amber housings, so I have clear ones on there with an amber bulb, so it still does flash amber. And I also put the tail lights that are on it on here. Again, no amber, because I don't like amber. So clear and red housings, amber bulbs for the flashers, and I think it just really improved the look of the truck. I went ahead and pulled the truck into the garage to talk a little bit more about it. Specifically, plans for this truck. I want this truck to be fun on the street, fun on the drag strip, and fun on the drift pad. I don't know that it'll ever be a drift truck. It is going to be a truck that I do take out onto street takeover style, parking lot style drift pad, drifting donuts, eventually getting better at drifting, because I don't know how to drift, and this is not exactly a drift car. And I know that that's fine with me. It's still going to be a lot of fun. So since drift pad is something I want to do with it, that's kind of where I've started as far as modifications goes. It's already lowered, which we talked about, but it was not lowered properly. It has, I think it's like a 2.5 inch block in the rear with a re-drilled leaf spring hanger. So that's dropped it 3, maybe 4 inches total. And then to do the front, there's really 2 ways to lower the fronts on these trucks. One is drop spindles. That's the proper way to do it. The other is just to adjust the torsion bar. So these trucks have a torsion bar with a shock front suspension. So when I got it, it was torsion bar lowered in the front, block and re-drilled in the back. But they did not cut the bump stops out in the front. And there's a channel who covers lots of hard body stuff. Local Losers 520 on YouTube. Those guys have been great helping me out with this thing, just from watching their videos and talking to them on Instagram. But the first thing I did on the front to make this thing ride better was I cut the bump stops out. I've got some pictures of that. I'll probably throw them in the video. But cut bump stops and then put in a Ford Pinto or Mustang 2 shock. So it has a built-in bump stop. That gave me lower in the front to match the rear because it wasn't really matched in the rear before. And it no longer just bounces and hits on the bump stops the whole time. So that's what I did on the front end. On the rear, I put a Beltec 3/4 inch anti-sway bar on it. So that stiffened up the rear a whole lot. It's a lot nicer through corners now. Should kind of keep things a little bit flatter. Should prevent some body roll for when it's out on the drift pad. And importantly, we just finished this up, welded the rear diff, which is not the right way to get a posi rear end, but it's the right way for this application. So welded rear end, stiffer rear suspension, better front suspension, lowered, should be good to go. I've still got a couple of safety things to tidy up on it before it will pass tech. One of them being the windshield. Like I said, that's getting done. It needs a battery hold down because this will just fall right out of that fender. It's got reservoir socks on clutch brake, and I'll need one on the power steering too. For our track, not all cars need socks on the reservoirs. It's required for S chassis, so your 240s, because they do have an issue with once they get hot, they'll leak. And this engine is the same engine that they put in the 240s, and no, they didn't put a sports car engine into the truck. They're putting truck engines into the 240s. So this is a single overhead cam KA, so it was in the older 240s, I think 89 through maybe 91. But because it is the same engine, I went ahead and put those reservoir socks on there. So that'll get that tidied up. I also have a fire extinguisher to go in there, so we're going to put a fire extinguisher in there. I don't need it because I'm not doing tandems or anything like that, but I'm going to put it in there just for safety. Hold the battery down, that'll be good. The fan shroud needs to be attached. It's just kind of floating there. And a couple other things that are just a little loose that will tighten up so they're not falling off on the track. But yeah, that's the plans right now, so stay tuned for that because there's going to be some more content, hopefully, where we get this thing to slide. Looking at the underneath the truck here, you can see between the axle and the leaf springs, there's that little block in there. It's not a tall block. People run a lot bigger of a block, which means I could go a lot lower in this truck if I wanted to. You can see some of the shiny parts on the axle housing. That's the sway bar that goes to the frame, clamped onto the axle. So that's going to keep it flatter through corners. And not a whole lot to see here other than that. Leaf spring bushings, we did those as well. It's got polyurethane leaf spring bushings because this bushing this leaf spring hanger was completely collapsed before. So Andrew and I spent some time replacing all of those. It was a pain, but we did it, and it's really helped out the truck as well. Now that I'm under here, you can also see the thrush muffler hanging down over there, a little bit lower than I would like it to be hanging. But that's just kind of the way it is. I had an exhaust shop do that. When I got this truck, it had no exhaust on it. I'll go ahead and just put in a video clip of this truck when I first got it. It was not a good sounding no exhaust. It was loud. It was loud.
thrush that I have on there is a thrush welded 2.5-inch pipe. It sounds okay. It's a little, I don't love it. It's not my favorite. It's not going to stay on this truck forever. But it's on it for now, and we're going to keep it for now. So, yeah, that's the rear end. I mentioned these Tacoma wheels before. Like, I picked these rims up for $50, and these tires are old tires that I had on my Camaro and some old tires that we had from a used tire dealer, shop, whatever. So the plan is to paint these black. I've done one of them. This one's sanded, that one's started. But when we got the rear diff done, I wanted to make sure that these wheels would fit before, I went through all this time of finishing them. And they do. I mean, I did my research. They were going to fit, but wanted to see how they look on the truck. One last thing I want to talk about, some of the plans for the future for this truck. I mentioned I wanted it to be fun to drive, fun to drift, fun to drag race. And that is not really conducive to the 4-cylinder engine that it has. But I have a plan. When I bought the truck, it came with this. Just a cheap eBay turbo, wastegate, and a header that does not fit this truck. So, eventually, the plan is to turbocharge this truck, make it even more fun, give it a little bit more power, and eventually just blow up this KA. And then put an LS in it, because that's just what we do. So we'll see how it goes, but stay tuned for that. When we do turbo this truck, I'm going to try and film the process of turboing it. It's not going to be a how-to instructional video, but it should be fun to watch. It should be fun to do, and I'm really looking forward to doing more with this truck. So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching the video. I don't know what's going to happen here on this channel, but I hope it's fun. So, thanks. See you next time.